discovered a long time ago that one of my spiritual gifts is that of service. And to be honest with you, I've never thought about a legacy here or anywhere else. It's just been a matter of being faithful to the task in front of me. A servant would never say, what's going to be my legacy? It's only, how can I help? And I feel like my being here at Cliff Temple was just a part of being the servant of God, in the same way as in the 16 years before that were involved in missionary service. I think this church has a legacy, and I've always had a greater appreciation for the legacy of the church than thinking in terms of what am I going to leave with it. And I mean, people in the Dallas community have long known that Cliff Temple was known, its legacy was that it genuinely cared for people. I actually have a folder that I came across some time ago at my house. It listed the names of people who actually joined Cliff Temple, I'm guessing back in the 20s and 30s. And for addresses, it had such things as in a tent down near the bridge, in a tent near the river. That has always been what this church has been about, and I think that the church has tried to call pastors that could live into its own legacy of what the church was. And I think the church has just done a remarkable job in the doing of this, even into today. And I asked the pastor search committee before I came here, why in the world would you want me to come and be your pastor? I haven't even lived in the States. The last 16 years I've been engaged in mission work overseas. And they said, it's because we're staying here in Oak Cliff, and we want to be about doing missions in Oak Cliff, and we think you can help us do that. So the church blessed me by writing me into its legacy, actually. And to me, that's far more the important thing. And this happened in some remarkable ways that are still living out now. For instance, you allowed me to bring in a mission minister, Tim Allen. And Tim Allen helped to develop Mission Oak Cliff with a good foundational structure, a good missiological structure, a good financial structure. And Mission Oak Cliff has been serving and thriving all of these years. The church brought me into its own legacy when you allowed me to work with your vision of missions by creating apartment churches. Tim, this was not me, but this was Tim Allen through the church's legacy. In a very short number of years, created 23 missions. And in fact, some of your own members today, Jerry and Nancy Sayers, were quite active for more than 10 years in living out this church's legacy in missions, because we were doing some of the really hard stuff in watching a neighborhood change. And it was a painful change. It was painful to the church in the loss of the numbers of people who moved out to the suburbs. It was painful in watching a congregation that is large enough, and I think it was about 5,600 when I was here. It was large enough that there were the continuing number of funeral services. I'm sure I did at least one a week. I know I did at least one a week. And I remember times I did 3 in one day. But it was not an easy task to try to do missions and try to do church in a changing neighborhood. I would be honest to say it was hard for me and it was hard for the church. But I will say this. I cherished every year I was here. They were not always easy years. But they were good years, and I was blessed in being here just to be a small part of what the church is doing. And there were a lot of funny things, and some of them I can't tell, so maybe I just won't tell any of them. But I do think that it's really possible for this congregation that your best days are ahead of you. And in the last 10 years, I've spent doing intentional interims with churches who, many of them are mostly old, and they're trying to figure out, what do we do in our neighborhood? What do we do with changes? And you helped me cut my teeth on doing this and being able to coach other churches into saying, look, there are good things out here to be done and that can be done. Let me just say, they were all really good years. And I loved every year that I was here, every single year.